Oh, are we live? All right, hold on. We're going to get this started. 1 second, please. All right. Okay. Check one, check one. All right. It's always exciting to have the opportunity to speak with you. Tonight, we're going to continue. This is part two of our digital acceleration course. As I said, this is sponsored by Next Era Learning, and Next Era Learning is about Learning 2.0. What is Learning 2.0? We know that your learning is set up for a classroom, maybe set up in a way that everybody does not receive the information and be able to actually apply that information or knowledge that they get. And so I created Learning Next Era Learning, EduTech Academy, all online, so that we may create an environment to where everybody can grasp the information. So we use a various amounts of techniques and pedagogy to ensure that the information is delivered as well as received, that you can apply it in your life. So I want to get right into part two. So you know that part one, we discussed some really interesting things about digital acceleration and why that's important today. We talked about areas of our lives that have been affected so much by this COVID, and I think you can understand that in this particular year of 2020, COVID definitely took over. And so we are engaged in a mission to make sure that e-learning and micro learning is paramount and people understand the power of getting this information in these bite-sized pieces where that you can actually learn, apply, execute that information into your lives and be better for it. So we're going to talk about the digital acceleration. That's how the fourth industrial revolution has created our lives in this day and time. It has accelerated the way that we work, the way that we play, the way that we do everything, because we had to pivot very quickly in order to see the future for what it is. And today, in our fourth industrial revolution, we are right in the middle and been accelerated into the future of work, education, and learning. So today, I want you to go with me on this journey, Digital Acceleration, the new education series, part two. So in part two, we really get into some good information. So we're going to talk about trends that are shaping our future. Let's explore what Stéphane Kasriel, the co-chair of Council on the Future of Work, Gender, and Education, has to say about the future of work. He says, we see that as the workforce evolves, we must finally break free from the industrial era habits to ensure a more productive and equitable future. See, he is an expert in staffing trends and believes in the rise of the freelance economy. That is to say, the future of work is freelance, our gig economy. He also talks about some other trends, and he goes into detail about Generation X, Y, Z, and so on and so forth. So I also read that employees will no longer sign on to the formal recruitment process or get a badge and work out of that office or that particular facility for 2 years when they sign on with a company. So Generation Y and Z are more of the ones that are being affected by this because of the actual generations or times. So we're in the fourth industrial revolution, where we're in a Generation Y and Z era where the work is starting to shift to those years. And so these guys are clearly going to challenge the status quo. They're going to challenge the traditional hiring practices and workplace norms. So it's time to redefine what an employee is. According to a McKinsey Global Institute report, At least 30% of the activities associated with most occupations in the United States could be automated by 2030, which includes even knowledge tasks that are previously thought of to be safe. This echoes what executives see as well. Rick Jensen, he is a reporter for the Inc. magazine. He quoted a chief talent officer as saying from a company called Intuit, the workforce is changing massively and believes we can expect technology to play a major role in the future of work. And it makes sense. So what does that mean to you? First, technology we talked about last on part 1. We're going to talk about it again because blockchain is the future of work. And let me explain to you why. Human resources is the hub of recruitment and onboarding for any company. Before someone gets hired as an employer or a contract worker, they will engage HR in some form or fashion. So Guild, which is a respected human resource and staffing agency, their experts say blockchain will effectively do away with the recruitment process and automate the search, selection, and onboarding of qualified talent. With their credentials uploaded to your system or that company's systems, then it will be hosted on a blockchain. This will eliminate fraud and need for the compliance checks because it is already built in. Bringing streams of information together in a single tamper-proof place, terms like datafication is being used to achieve greater efficiencies and reduce human bias in the recruitment process. Blockchain is the future of work, and that's why. So what does the workplace look like in 2030? Does it look like entrepreneurs or freelancers taking care of business? Generation Y, Generation Z, what does that look like in 2030? Maybe like this: traditional to agile to flexible. Traditionally, we believe before 2020, pre-pandemic, the traditional process-focused environment would evolve to an activity-based environment to a experience-centric environment. But as you can see, with the advent of COVID-19, neither of these will work because that was pre-pandemic. That was before digital acceleration. That was before Learning 2.0. Now in Learning 2.0, we know that there's a difference. There's an evolution. There's a fifth evolution or revolution coming. The future of work looks like this. Do you agree? The future of work is a laptop and a home office. Telework, remote work, distance project management, freelance, gig work, whatever you want to call it, it's independent and it's remote. That is the future of work. So within an organization, positions will be more fluid, and a strict organizational chart will be likely tossed out in favor of more project-based teams. This is especially appealing to Generation Z employees, since 75% of Gen Z employees will be interested in having multiple roles in one place of employment. The gig economy will continue to expand, where professionals sign on as contractors or freelancers and then move on to the next gig. Even if you hold a C-suite position, that's CEO, CIO, CTO, CFO, any of the C-suite positions in your organization, you can negotiate an arrangement where you're working remotely and can sign on as a contract like a CFO or CTO for project work for other companies while holding your main job. You can become an independent rep as an employee for your main company because your talent it can be used anywhere you want it. This is the future of work. You may ask, what is a generational workforce? Well, let's find out. A generational workforce. Great question. I would say Gen Y or millennial, along with Gen Z for the future work arrangements reference. When we mention Gen Z in this lesson, it is mainly because they are the most recent generation to join the workforce today and will be the leading group in the next 10 to 20 years. Along with Gen Alpha, which that's the new term right now, Gen Alpha, or people that were born around 2013, and of course, they're not in the workplace yet. They would only be 7 years old if that was the case. But being around 7 to 10 years old right now, then we know in 10 to 15 years, they'll be in the workforce or they will be just graduating from college. And so 10 to 15 years from now will be 2030 to 2040. And in that time frame, Gen Alpha will be our workforce. And so we need to prepare for what that's going to look like. And so Gen 2020 or your Gen Z are just getting into the workforce. And therefore, in 10 years, they will be the predominant workforce employee or gig or freelance or independent contractor. So this is what we're preparing for. And so when we talk about fourth industrial revolution, then I did some research and I came up with a new white paper, a new terminology called the fifth digital reaction. There's going to be a fifth reaction to the fourth industrial revolution. And that fifth reaction will include the future of work, which is gig, freelance, and independent. These are the new or next normal terms and conditions that Gen Alpha will require or demand. And employers will have to step up and accept that what they're looking for, because that's the best talent. And the best talent can be hired from anywhere in the world, not necessarily in your local area. So the workplace has become a global workplace, and you can find the best talent wherever they are. And we'll talk a lot more about that later on in our sessions. The gig work and remote work, the mobile technology will guide the work of the future. Mobile technology and ease of connectivity have created a new labor market that goes well beyond permanent jobs and is characterized by the prevalence of short-term contracts or freelance work. This is also, like I said, known as the gig economy. The makeup of the workforce is changing, and we see a greater reliance on contingent and external talent. Companies will need to find ways to future-proof their workforce strategy to stay competitive. According to Intuit, the gig economy is estimated to be about 43% of the workforce in 2020. As technology continues to cause work cycles to spin faster and project timeliness to shrink, the next generation is beginning to have a different view of what it means to be employed. Jensen predicts, and this is the guy that did the reporting, predicts that companies will need to understand how to tap into this 1099 economy and the emerging generations that are likely to be more flexible or demand more flexibility in their work arrangements. The World Economic Forum projects that 54% of workers will need to be upskilled by 2022. That's the effect of automation. That's the fourth industrial revolution playing out the next normal. So decentralized, flexible location arrangements and hiring bonuses will be the norm. There won't be exceptions. They have to be able to put that together and put that in the people's hands. So flexible location hiring will be the norm in the next few years. Employers thinking they have to onboard an employee at a company's headquarters will need to adjust their mindset. That's no longer necessary. The days of traveling to the HQ or the headquarters of that office or that company to move the career forward, that's in the past. You don't need to require employees or the people you hire as gig economy or freelancers to come to the office and onboard. All that's done through the blockchain, as we mentioned earlier. Thanks to today's technology, which we know all too well can use a number of video conferencing tools to communicate as if we were right there in person. With advanced word processing and data processing software, we can perform almost any task that is required of the company right from our home office. No need for employees to be in the same location as the employer or the supervisor or the manager, which is why millennials and Gen Z are more likely than any other generation to choose a city before a job. Think about that. In the future, Gen Z and Gen Alpha will choose the city they want to work from, and then they will pick a company that they want to work for. So again, Jensen, the reporter, says from Intuit, is interested in finding talent where they are and challenging the infrastructure of the company. And so, based on his reporting, he found out that the people that he talked to of the Gen Z or even the Gen Alpha, the Gen Alphas are, like I said, they're about 7 to 10 years old. But Microsoft is doing some research on that particular group, and that group is being prepped for what's going to happen when they graduate from college, and how they prepare themselves now will determine how well they succeed or how well they handle what's going on when they graduate from college. So, like I said, the reporter from Intuit, Mr. Jensen, he is focused on the people in the workforce now, your Gen Z, and they're early in the workforce. So 10 years from now, they will be the bulk of the workforce. And they're interested in finding talent where they are. Like, they're interested in working where they are, from where they are. So if you're at home, they want to stay at home. If you're going to work from your phone, it's a mobile workplace, a mobile working environment. And that's the future that we're going to see happening. And it's happening now, but it's going to happen quicker because of the pandemic, because of the situation we found ourselves in March 2020. Most companies had to pivot very fast in order to understand the dynamics of the fourth industrial revolution. Yes, most were not prepared because they did not take it seriously that they needed to adjust their technology. They needed to upgrade their automation. They needed to understand AI and big data, IoT, blockchain. They needed to understand these technologies and how fast they were coming in order to set themselves up for success. It's not always about robots. It's about robotics. It's not always about androids or, Star Trek. This is not what AI and automation is always about. Those are good things. But what we're really talking about is, how do you shift your workplace in order to prepare it for the technology of the future? Because the technology of the future is here today. And that being said, I want to let you know that we are going to continue this conversation, because this is the end of part 2. But I want you to understand that the future workforce is a gig workforce, is a remote workforce. And millennials and Gen Z, they'll be choosing a city before choosing a job. And that's real. So I want everybody to really capture the essence of being able to work from wherever you want to work from, because the economies have pivoted to support work from anywhere. Globalization was about products and services and trade long, long ago. But in the fourth industrial revolution, going into the fifth digital reaction, it's about the people supported by automation. So this has been Learning 2.0, and I appreciate you joining me. And I look forward to working with the automation and the web conferencing tools, all of the things that support the digital acceleration. Part 2 will be using in part 3. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to our next conversation. Please join us on Digital Acceleration Part 3. This has been Rashid Hill, sponsored by Next Era Learning, the E Academy for the next normal. Take care. See you soon.